Chapter 1: The Surprising Power of Atomic Habits. This chapter introduces the concept of atomic habits, which are small habits that are easy to implement and maintain. The author argues that small, consistent actions over time can lead to big changes in one's life. He also introduces the idea of the plateau of latent potential, which is the idea that small improvements can accumulate to eventually reach a tipping point where progress becomes more visible. Chapter 2: How Your Habits Shape Your Identity, and Vice Versa. This chapter explores the relationship between habits and identity. The author argues that identity-based habits, which are habits that are tied to one's self-image, are more effective than outcome-based habits, which are focused on achieving a specific result. He also introduces the idea of the habit loop, which is the cycle of cue, craving, response, and reward that drives habit formation. Chapter 3: How to Build Better Habits in 4 Simple Steps. This chapter outlines the 4 stages of habit formation: cue, craving, response, and reward. The author provides practical advice on how to use these stages to create good habits and break bad ones. He also introduces the idea of habit stacking, which involves attaching a new habit to an existing habit in order to make it more likely to stick. Chapter 4: The Man Who Didn't Look Right. This chapter tells the story of how the author's father quit smoking by focusing on small, atomic habits. It illustrates the power of small, incremental improvements in habit formation. Chapter 5: The Best Way to Start a New Habit. This chapter provides practical advice on how to start a new habit. The author argues that making a habit easy to do is key to making it stick. He also introduces the idea of habit shaping, which involves making small changes to one's environment to make a habit easier to perform. Chapter 6: Motivation is Overrated. Environment often matters more. This chapter argues that environment plays a crucial role in habit formation. The author provides practical advice on how to change one's environment to make it easier to form good habits and harder to form bad ones. He also introduces the idea of temptation bundling, which involves pairing an activity you enjoy with one you need to do in order to make the latter more appealing. Chapter 7: The Secret to Self-Control. This chapter explores the role of willpower and motivation in habit formation. The author argues that willpower is a finite resource and that creating good habits is more effective than relying on willpower to resist temptation. He also introduces the idea of implementation intentions, which involves planning ahead for when and where to perform a habit in order to make it more likely to stick. Chapter 8: How to Make a Habit Irresistible. This chapter provides practical advice on how to make a habit more appealing. The author argues that making a habit attractive, easy, and satisfying is key to making it stick. He also introduces the idea of habit contracts, which involves making a public commitment to a habit in order to increase accountability. Chapter 9: The Role of Family and Friends in Shaping Your Habits. This chapter explores the impact of social influence on habit formation. The author argues that our habits are heavily influenced by those around us. He also provides practical advice on how to use social support to create good habits and eliminate bad ones. Chapter 10: How to Find and Fix the Causes of Your Bad Habits. This chapter provides practical advice on how to identify the root causes of bad habits. The author argues that bad habits are often a symptom of deeper issues. He provides practical advice on how to identify the underlying causes of bad habits and how to address them. He also introduces the idea of habit stacking, which involves attaching a new habit to an existing habit in order to make it more likely to stick. Chapter 11: Walk Slowly, but Never Backward. This chapter explores the idea of maintaining progress over time. The author argues that small, consistent improvements are key to maintaining progress and avoiding backsliding. He also provides practical advice on how to avoid the all-or-nothing mindset and how to focus on progress, not perfection. Chapter 12: The Law of Least Effort. This chapter argues that making good habits easy to do is key to making them stick. The author provides practical advice on how to use the law of least effort to create good habits and eliminate bad ones. He also introduces the idea of batching, which involves grouping similar tasks together to make them more efficient. Chapter 13. How to stop procrastinating by using the 2-minute rule. This chapter provides practical advice on how to overcome procrastination. The author introduces the 2-minute rule, which involves starting a new habit by doing it for just 2 minutes. He also provides practical advice on how to use the 4th law of behavior change, which is to make a habit satisfying, to overcome procrastination. Chapter 14. The secret to results that last. This chapter explores the idea of maintaining progress over time. The author argues that habits are a way of automating progress and making it sustainable. He also provides practical advice on how to avoid the goal gradient and how to focus on the process, not just the outcome. Chapter 15. The truth about talent, when genes matter and when they don't. This chapter explores the role of genetics in success. The author argues that while genetics play a role in certain areas, such as sports or music, they are not the only factor, and that habits and hard work can overcome genetic limitations. He also provides practical advice on how to focus on what is within one's control and how to use habits to achieve success. I hope this chapter's summary of Atomic Habits by James Clear provides a helpful overview of the book's contents. There is a link in the description for you to get the book itself on Amazon.